So about 10 years ago, I dated a woman who didn't want to tell her friends when we'd go out with them that she didn't want to drink. So she would. She would basically milk a glass of wine and she would pound water the whole time. It was so funny to watch. I wasn't drinking at the time either. It's when I quit for 3.5 years. So it's funny, I quit, or she didn't want to drink by choice. For me, it wasn't a choice, although ironically, I would make that choice in a heartbeat now. But, I didn't fully comprehend it till later that she was what I now say I'm hooked on having a clear mind. She was a very successful, incredibly hardworking, driven lawyer. And she didn't want anything slowing her down. And certainly that's what alcohol does. So, I've never forgotten that. Another thing, we went out with my friends once who knew I didn't drink. And I said, "Oh, Nikki doesn't like to drink." And she corrected me later. She said, "Don't tell people that. Just tell them I choose not to drink," or something. It's just so funny how we have to explain why we don't drink. And I know for, case of people who are forced to give it up, people more just want the story behind it. But I say to people all the time, take pride that you don't drink. Fine if you don't want to give the details, but just say, yeah, I was forced to quit, but I'm so glad I was. Guess what? I sleep 1,000 times better, and I'm way more productive. I did a video on how not drinking gives us a competitive advantage in life, number 54. And this is kind of follow-up in that because I read a great article by Women on Top with 2 Ps.com. And the title is Alcohol is Out, Awareness is In. Why more successful people stop drinking. Amazing. And I also recently heard an Instagram live discussion with this woman, Carolina, who runs a Euphoric AF coaching program. And she talked about how sober people start businesses. And a lot of successful entrepreneurs are sober. She said at some point we know we're meant for a bigger purpose, and we just get tapped on our shoulder and say, you don't have time for drinking alcohol anymore. And again, it's not just time. You don't need to be slowed down by it anymore. And that's what it did for me. My whole adult life just slowed me down, certainly slowed down my potential. Said it was haunted my potential, and now I'm actively fulfilling it every day, more and more. So going back to this Women on Top article, they talked about, I love this line, clarity is the new currency, and how modern success isn't about grinding 24/7. It's about making smart decisions fast. And alcohol, even in small amounts, it's so key, affects the brain's executive functions like focus, decision-making, and emotional regulation. For high performers, even the occasional glass of wine can cloud their clarity. Boom. That was Nikki. Amazing. All came full circle to me. So I love it. And I guess I'll end with, another story. A friend of mine who's a normal drinker, can almost take it or leave it, but had kind of a similar story. She said, I was out with my mother and some of her friends. She said, I didn't like drinking. And she said, I didn't like that I wasn't in complete control. And, I said, well, give me an example. And she said, well, I babbled about the kind of nail polish I was wearing. She's like, I don't like to tell anyone what brand I wear and color. That's my competitive secret. So I thought that was hysterical. But it's true. You lose control when you're drinking. I remember another friend telling me a story about making a bad decision with his kid involving a pool. I don't remember the specifics, but certainly we all know a lot of bad decisions can be made. So that's it. I am absolutely hooked on having a clear mind to the point I now cringe when I see people drinking and cringe at the thought of me ever drinking again. There's no reason I'd ever drink again. Now, the key, of course, because it's a mind-altering substance, the key is you have to enjoy your sober mind, which, of course, you will once you do the work. So I'll end it there. As always, stronger, sober, and remember, clarity is the new currency. Please like, share, subscribe. Thanks.